You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Is such a good fit in the way that the sport is working right now, because like as you look at the coaching carousel that's out there, it needs to be pointed out when you're an AD or whoever's in charge of putting together who you're going to hire, and you start looking at coordinators or group of 5 coaches or whatever, you have to ask yourself, do they have experience in the job we're about to hire them for? Because it's much different at different levels of this thing. We can't just hire a play caller or a coordinator and then hope that they can figure out all of the other stuff. Mm-hmm. Who's negotiating these deals? Who's deciding how to handle the portal? Are we just going to do high school recruiting? How am I going to go help raise money for all of the needs that we have now and this bill that we have to pay every year? And every school's a bit different, but it's, when you look at all these big time jobs, that's what you're seeing some coordinators, you're seeing some group of 5 head coaches and mentioned, but they are not doing the same job now that they will be asked to do. It's not like it used to be in that sense. And I think that is, Joey and them have always been ahead of the game a little bit in that, and the way that their front office, quote unquote, is structured.
That's a great point, and it really doesn't even have to always be from like a level to level. I mean, it's within conference from department to department. We've seen it play out in Stillwater. Maybe somebody trying to stiff arm it for a little while, and now they're, I don't know, after Bass or wherever, somewhere on a lake. But it's just case by case, like it's never been. Thankfully, in Lubbock, ahead of the game, at the tip of the spear, leading edge, innovator, whatever you want to say. All those who have combined to make up that kind of effort, obviously producing great results so far this season. Before we wrap it up, Chris, we can't actually use your carousel comment to segue into this final thought I wanted to get from Coach Dillingham as it relates to a crossover that you actually touched on yesterday in season last season. Mack Leftwich, Tech's offensive coordinator, did face Arizona State. It was actually a pretty tough day for the Sun Devils down in San Marcos, but nonetheless, I didn't know there was also a different kind of crossover in that apparently Leftwich considered for a position on Coach Dillingham's staff previously. Take a listen to Arizona State head coach Kenny Dillingham.
Been phenomenal. He was a guy that, to be honest, he was a guy that we interviewed for the job here because he worked with Sean Paul Brophy, a guy I'm near and dear with, and he absolutely hit it out of the park. I just wanted a guy with head coach experience, but he was an absolute stud. He was a stud at Texas State last year. His dad was a stud in this profession. He grew up in this profession. He's been a stud there at Tech, so he's an absolute superstar. He's a future head coach, 100% for sure. Like I said, he's done a phenomenal job there.
And selfishly, of course, I immediately asked, can we use any of this familiarity to our advantage?
Yeah, well, so Mack's offense went obviously against Arizona State last year. He knows, their large in part their personnel and all those things. But yeah, it's I think when Kenny got the job there, he's a younger guy. Mack's a really young guy, and typically you want to surround yourself with some experience, and so that is why obviously Mack didn't get the job there at the time when they were looking, because it's like, man, I need to surround myself with somebody that's older and maybe been a head coach, and kind of I need to be able to lean on somebody and all that. But as we've seen from Coach Leftwich, he's very sharp, but he's just very young, and but I think that the past experience certainly doesn't. I think it probably helps you more than it does them, because you've seen what they do with a lot of the same personnel, but he's got a completely different group of personnel here. And then you've got this cloud of who's going to be your quarterback. So there's probably some differences that it's probably advantaged Coach Leftwich. Maybe it's minor, but and some of that stuff is overrated. But anyway, he will know he will know a lot about what's going on there because he'll have a book on them from last year and the prep there and the recap of that and all those things. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how that plays out. But I appreciated what Dillingham said about Coach Leftwich there because, he's just being brutally honest. I mean, he crushed it, but he just wasn't exactly what we needed here at the time. Sometimes these jobs and hirings are all about timing as much as anything.
Doubled or tripled down on calling him a stud. So I think he's fine with Mack Leftwich. I'll say with another week now turned in, we kind of had this conversation last week about sort of how quiet it's been among the natives around your offensive coordinator. Obviously, there's been some really good results turned in, so that helps. But that's rarely a quiet conversation when it comes to perspectives on the offensive coordinator in Lubbock. Chris, another week turned in since we last kind of talked about that. And I just really feel like as you continue to roll through the year, it may be understated that not only you're getting this success, but he's doing it in situations where you're juggling some QBs and you're doing it in game and going from this to this. And then boom, here's a new offensive wrinkle. We saw Will Hammond's mobility really on display and making it work against Kansas. So I've been happy with Mack Leftwich in so many different ways, but that's probably one angle somehow as prevalent as quarterback conversation is somehow that maybe we hadn't talked about enough in addition to other things. And I know he's got an improved O-line. We've talked about improved personnel. That all helps tremendously. But turning in a really good season and not without some adversity, having to deal again this week with thoughts about two different quarterbacks.
First, today's episode brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. We all make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right means cashing in. And with football back, PrizePicks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes, all in less than 60 seconds. You're going to love how easy and simple it is to use. And of course, PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Download the PrizePicks app today and use our code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. With PrizePicks, run your game.
Yeah, I think you said it. When you've got a good group up front, it makes everything easier. I mean, it just does. I mean, like they are as much about picking your poison as anything. Like, okay, you want to do this? All right. You want to do that? Okay, we'll do that too. I mean, that's just but yeah, you're I was thinking about this when I was driving to work this morning, but you've really dealt with the QB thing every week, really. I mean, dinged up, and then he's going to play, and then okay, now we need to see what it looks like, and then you get dinged up, and then the other guy comes in, and then okay, now we got a bye week, and it's just kind of been a thing really all throughout the season, and yet it's we're used to it. It's worked out well for you. We knew you needed the room. There's a reason that you put depth in the room, and that Will Hammond is on a 2-year contract, and that you added Mitch Griffiths and all those things. We knew the questions about Baron Morton coming into the year, and could he stay healthy and play. And it's funny because he's missed more time technically, I guess, this year than he did last. As far as game reps and snaps and all that stuff. And because last year he played in every game, and just I think the only one he didn't finish was the TCU game. But yes, and Coach Leftwich would tell you, they're not running different offenses. They're just highlighting some QB run game when Will is in there. And every skill player will tell you our job is to just do the same thing. We're not – it doesn't really change with whoever's in there. And that's good because you're not having to coach and teach two different variations of an offense. It's the same thing. It's just you're adding in the QB run game with one guy more so than you are the other. But yeah, we'll see what we get this weekend in Tempe as far as who's playing quarterback for you.
Yeah, well, credit to Coach Leftwich and obviously everybody on that side for continuing to put up some great offensive numbers and be one of the most explosive in the country while still going through a bit of a revolving sort of door when it comes to the QB. We'll see what this week holds. Chris, appreciate your time as always, man. Enjoyed the conversation. And we'll see you for the next one. We'll get back together to go mailbag mode on them to wrap up the week before we send you to the desert.
You got it, man. Looking forward to it. This week has gone by fast, for sure. But yeah, big one coming up Saturday afternoon in the desert for sure. So yeah, bang, bang, everybody. Talk to you next time. Keep the hope alive.
That sounded ominous. He's going to the desert for a game. Nothing gambling debts or Joe Pesci related. Just a football game. Sorry about that. All right. Thank you so much for being out there. Get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. We appreciate the everydayers for always being there and riding along. And, of course, the Matador Mob. Hit our show notes and find a link to a free 14-day trial. If you're interested in joining that crew, it's your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text sent straight to your phone. For Chris, I'm Casey. Thanks as always for the time. We hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.